everyone, and welcome to the Clone Knits podcast, where every other week I talk about my knitting, my spinning, and other things that are related to generally yarn and yarny stuff. I live in Montreal, Canada, with my family, my husband, my two daughters, and my dog. And yeah, I love to talk about knitting, so let's do it. I will be chatting to you about my work in progress, but you have to be aware that if you were watching last week, no, 2 weeks ago, yes, if you were watching 2 weeks ago, they will be very similar because I've made progress on things, but I haven't started new things. So that'll give us more time to chat about spinning. Yay! Because I said to you that I would chat to you about my spinning at some point, so that's this week. Today I am drinking a tea, Earl Grey, with some milk and honey. That's how I like my Earl Grey. If you're from the UK, you might be insulted at my tea preferences. I don't know. Do you? Do you put milk in your tea? In your Earl Grey though? I don't know. Anyway, that's what I'm drinking right now because I already had 2 coffees and that's enough for me. I am wearing, first off, that's a beautiful position, shush, a sweater, right? This is a pattern by Camille Descoteaux. It's called the Pizzelle, and it is a stranded colorwork sweater with the simplest stranded colorwork ever, except for the fact that there are pearl stitches in the colorwork, so that's fun to do. But it is absolutely a pattern that I could recommend to a beginner stranded colorwork knitter. I made I believe, the second size. It's been too long. I don't remember exactly which size I made. I do a lot of test knitting for Camille, and I've made so many that they kind of all get confused in my head. But all I know is that when you test for Camille, there's not much to say more than just sometimes there's a typo here or there, or sometimes because their patterns are in French and in English, sometimes like there's a word that has not been translated or something like that. But as far as construction, as far as pattern, clarity, all these things, it's stellar. She is an amazing designer. I love her to bits. This is the Pizzelle. Like I said, it is her original sample is made with a background color and a spin cycle dyed in the wool color to make all the rest. I decided to use, so the background color here is called, that's a good question. What is it called? I don't remember the name of the colorway, but the yarn is Aries from Bleu Poussière. It is her superwash BFL sock base, I believe. Anyway, it's a sock base that is super beautiful. I love it. And then the other color that runs throughout is actually a set of mini skeins that she had in her shop that starts with this gorgeous mustard and goes into those different shades of yellow, into some paler yellow, and then some pink and darker pinks that almost blend into the orangey pink that I have, coral. And then I decided to keep the same color for the toes the wrist, the top, and the bottom, to maintain a little bit of a color theme, I guess, for the ribbing. The technique I used to do that, which is like the mini skeins, I don't know that I would recommend, because I had to match my sleeves. I mean, it was not the end of the world. I ended up calculating after I calculated how long I wanted the body, and I kind of divided the number of color row per kind of chart repeat, and then divided that by the number of colors I had in my mini set. So let's say I had to do, I don't know, 30 rows of color. If I had to do 30 rows of color and then I had 3 colors, I would have done 30 divided by 3, so 10 rows per color, right? Um, but then I also had to do the same for the sleeves, which means that there was a lot of ends to weave in. And also I did have to add a little, like there's a color in there. I think that this one is not in the body because it turns out that I would have, I think, run out of one of the colors, because obviously this one that's up here is much less used than like the ones that are starting to be all along the body plus the sleeves. And also I think my sleeves are a little bit longer than my body, which means that I had to do more stripes. So all that to say, it was a little bit of calculation that maybe in the end was a little bit annoying, but the result is so beautiful that I really don't care in the end. But if I were to do it again, which I might, because it is a beautiful pattern for handspun yarn, and I have quite a few single skein of handspun yarn that could be beautiful as a as a color work color for this. I'm looking up there because I know there's one right there. So I might do it again. It's fingering weight sweater, and since this is one of my only, I would say, yeah, this is one of my very few superwash wool sweater. I wear it when, the weather is not super cold, and it is much more lightweight and much more fitted than most of my sweaters. I have one drawer for all my like fingering weight sweaters, and then I have one drawer for everything else because I knit a lot more fingering weight than everything else. But generally I'll knit for sweaters, I'll knit a fingering weight in a non-superwash wool. It's generally my preference now, but this one feels, I don't know, it doesn't feel too superwash. Is it weird to say? I don't know, but I really like it. So there it is. That's my Pizzelle sweater by Camille Descoteaux. I absolutely adore it. So, did I finish anything this week? I did not. I worked on a lot of things, but I did not finish anything. So let's do a little wrap up of what I worked on. First, let's see. Let's start with this one. This one, I always have this bag with me, but the pattern that's in, or the project that's in the bag is kind of a rotating one because it's oftentimes the one I grab to go out to different places, and I'll just put my current 2 skeins project in there, or 1 skein sometimes. I've been working, so all of my stuff right now is on knitting barber cords or like holders, because I should really just buy more cables for my interchangeable cable needle set. I use Chiaogu interchangeable needles a lot. I have a few of their also fixed needles in the sizes that I use the most, which are the US 4 and US 6. So the 3.5 millimeter and 3 millimeter. Yes. Those are just the ones that kind of I reach for the most because I like to, knit sweaters and fingering weight. It's oftentimes that size, or shawls and fingering weights are oftentimes a US 4 or a 3.5 millimeter. Is it 3.5? Anyway, I always get confused because I started knitting in English. And so when I started knitting, I used all the US size much more than the millimeters. But since I've been podcasting in French, then I've been using much more the millimeters, but I still get confused sometimes. So anyway, all that to say, I need more cords because I have to pull out the cords from my work in progress right now to use them for other things, which is not practical very much when I'm actually like a professional knitter. I should really just invest in more cords. Note to self. Anyway, so this is my, and it's even just, no, it's gonna stretch to the, yay, it's gonna stretch to the extent of my cord. So this is the Shift. It's a cowl by Andrea Maury in her Shift era. And here you go. I don't know that I've made much progress since last time. It is a pattern that's quite easy to memorize and easy to do, but it is a long process. And because I'm using a sport weight double width mohair as a background color, and I didn't change the needle size, it is a little bit hard on my hands because I'm using, needles that would be great with a fingering to sport weight, but I'm holding sport weight with double width mohair, so it's a little tight. And I can't say that it's my favorite way to work right now. So when I feel like working on something really like easy peasy, I don't necessarily reach for it. But that's my fault. It's not the pattern's fault at all. The pattern's very cute. I'm almost done, I believe, increasing. So you start here and you have a very little amount of stitches, and then you increase at both sides for a while, and then you start increasing only on one side, and then this thing happens where it creates this funky shape here. I'm not gonna give away the entire pattern, but the shape is like this, and then at the end I'm gonna be seaming this side here with, I think, the bottom here, which is gonna create the cowl. So I have to keep working on it because I want to wear it. Like, I want to have it as a piece to wear. I'm using, once again, Bleu Poussière Brindille in the Alexis on Fire colorway, and Bon Tricot, or Happy Knitting, in their mohair in the Brown Mustard colorway. Or Honey Mustard. One of the two. Oh, I have it here. Honey Mustard. Bliss Mohair and Honey Mustard. Once again, if you need information on any of my things, most of my Ravelry projects are up to date. The newer ones, sometimes I don't have a photo, or maybe I don't have the colorway on it, or some things like that. But generally, I try as much as I can to remember to update my Ravelry project page. And then the background color is Heliotrope, which is Spin Cycle, dyed in the wool, exclusive colorway for Mont Tricot in Sutton here in Quebec. It is gorgeous. I'm loving it. I'm scared that I'm gonna run out of this one, but hey, it's a project that I decided to cast on to use stash yarn. So if I run out, because I feel like that's not a lot, if I run out, I'll start mixing in a different color. And the mohair will, I believe, blend everything together, and it might be like a kind of a yin and yang kind of thing, where on one side it's a certain color and on the other side it's another. I don't think it's going to be ugly if I do that. I just have to find the right color to put in. So that is that. Slip stitch pattern, mosaic cal is going on. So if you want to participate, you can go on Instagram and hashtag cal mosaic. Yes, and at me, so at Claude Tricot, because my Instagram handle is Claude Tricot, my French one. I didn't want to use a different Instagram for my English, subscribers, because I already have people following me in English on my French channel. So I am posting in 2 languages. Every once in a while, I'll make a story in 1 language only, but I'll generally try to put both languages on my posts. So that is that. Think. The bag is obviously from Jezabel B, and is a felt bag, and this is the medium size, which holds those like 3 skeins in here very easily. I had a sweater project in here because I'm a small person, but even a small person, at some point the sweater project becomes too big for this medium sized bag. I really just need to get myself a large one. That's what's happening. Okay, I did finish a half a thing, which is the funkiest of funky socks ever. So I made this sock. It's the funkiest thing because it's, as you can probably tell, it is a leftover sock yarn sock. So I started with the toe, and I did the short row toe that I talked about in probably my first podcast or the second one. I don't remember. I did a short row toe, and I'm waiting to start the second sock when I have time to film the short roto for you on the channel. I've been asked if I could do the short roto on video, and I will. And then all the other, it is a Flegel heel, which is a gusset heel, but with a no heel flap. Like there's no back and forth heel flap. It is a gusset followed directly by short rowing, this little triangle. It is great for people that have high arches because it's really wide at its widest part. And yeah, so I think most of those yarns are from people located in Quebec. I didn't really plan for it that way. It's just the way it is. This one is from de Maille en... No, it's Entre Sœurs et Laine. This one is from de Maille en Bas. This one is from a dyer that doesn't dye anymore, so I'm going to hold off. This one is the only one that I think is a like commercial yarn, but I can't remember what it was. It was one of those self-striping or self-patterning, very big commercial yarn companies. I'll have to look into it. This one was from Patrick Knits, and this was a little leftover of a mini by the same company here that's Entre Sœurs et Laine, and the black is just a very old black that I've had. It's probably Regia or something like that I've had in my stuff forever. And that's that. So I don't know who this sock is going to belong to because it is a little bit big for me. It's weird because I always knit a 56 stitches sock on one US 1 needles, 2.25 millimeter needles. But I generally use mini circulars, and this time around I use magic loop. And maybe that's why the sock is a little bit bigger than what I usually do. We'll see. I'll wash and block him, see if I want to wear them. If I don't, I'll find someone that they'll go to that will love the unique ugliness of this sock. It's a very ugly sock. You can say it. I absolutely know that it is an ugly sock. Difficult to say for a French Canadian. So this one needs a friend, but it is basically an FO except for the part where only half of my ends are woven in. When I change yarn, I weave in the one that I just left by doing the weave in Steven method, but then I don't weave in the bit that I just started working with that method, because I find that it leaves a little hole because it doesn't go in the correct, it turns around on itself and it creates a little hole. So I come back when I do stripes like this, I'll come back with a yarn needle, and then I'll just weave it in the opposite direction of where I started knitting in order for it to not have a gap. Like we all have our little tricks to finish our things the way we like it. Okay, so I've knitted on that. I've knitted on my sweater quite a bit. Let me show you. Oops. Okay. Ooh. I believe last time I was done with my sleeves, which are here. For my Radari sweater. It is a beautiful pattern. I cannot wait to be at the yoke part, because the yoke part is what's going to be so much fun about it, because it is a 4-color work yoke, circular yoke. But 2 sleeves are done. Body is on the way. And my needles are also not really on it. I have 2 needles, but these are not the correct ones because I changed them to do some sampling, and you'll see in a minute. And half of my stitches are no longer on the cable because I wanted to try it on, which is fine. You don't have to worry about me. I'll just put my needle straight back in because this yarn is so sticky that all my stitches will stay exactly put where they are. It is at this point, you know, if I hold it to my high-waisted pants, it could be done, but I want it to be longer because it's going to be almost like a coat. So I will knit quite a few more. Like I don't want the armpit to be very high, obviously, because I want to be able to wear it over things. But I think I still have like, you know, this much to do before I connected to the sleeves. You can kind of tell that I changed my mohair ball around here. There's a lot more white in this mohair ball here, but that is not gonna bother me in the end. Absolutely okay. And for people that were wondering, I was using you know, a plate of Nutiden that I unfortunately didn't weigh before starting the knit with it, so I don't know if it had 100 grams or if it had more. But I literally knit, and it was double, right? I had two strands of the Nutiden held together. I knit both those sleeves, plus all the way up to like here. I had to change my Nutiden just before I ran out of mohair. So the yardage was almost the same as double a ball of 50 grams of mohair. So it's a lot of yardage. It is quite thick, dense fabric. So if you're doing something more airy, you could absolutely knit a sweater in 2 plates if you're my size. I'm probably gonna only use 2 plates. We'll see. And I'll weigh it at the end, subtract about like probably 75 grams for the mohair, and I'll know how much actual Nutiden I used. It's one thing about those yarns, unfortunately, it's a little bit tricky to kind of calculate the yardage. So I usually just weigh my garment at the end and make an approximation of how much was the main color, how much was the, you know, the color work color, in order to tell people about how much they need to make that sweater in that yarn if they have the same gauge as me, obviously. So that's that. I'm not going to talk in length about it because I have in all of the other podcasts. So if you want to get more information about the colors and all of that, you can, and maybe the little modifications I made, you can go back 2 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, etc. I don't know if I had started the body last time. I'm pretty sure I had. But anyway, I cast it on 4 less stitches for the body than what the pattern calls for because of what? Because I needed to, in order to compensate for the fact that my sleeves were also less stitches, and I want the yoke to connect and be able to have the 8-stitch repeat. Yeah, the chart has an 8-stitch repeat at the top, and I was, you know, 4 stitches off with my sleeve stitches. And I'm happy because I'm going to end up having sleeves that are a little bit less big in relation to the body, because it's one thing that I find in a lot of the pictures of the pattern, of people making that pattern, is that I feel like the top of the sleeve here, the circumference, is a bit big compared to the body. In my opinion, it's a little bit poofy most of the time, not all the time, obviously, but so I decided to make smaller sleeves, but still approximately the same size body of the smallest size with the same size needles. That's it. Now we're moving on. Speaking of Nutiden, just as an FYI, the reason why I haven't knitted as much is that I received some yarn that I was waiting for in order to do a video that I'm very excited to do. I've been having a lot of fun sampling for that video, and I'm gonna give you a tiny snippet, but I won't talk about it too much because I want you to go watch the video. It's gonna probably be on the channel next week. I've been sampling a whole lot of unspun wool. So I have Nutiden, I have some Plotulopi, I have some Canadian yarns. You don't want to miss that. Oh my god, it smells like smells like sheep, but like they are, I'm so happy that instead of just kind of talking about them and not having knit with all of them, I actually got them all at home and I knit with all of them, so I can really tell you all the differences in between those unspun wool. I'm literally knitting with all the unspun wool I could find that's available to me right now in Montreal. Some come from, like the Nutiden comes from Sweden, come from Canada, some is from Eastex. Super excited. So anyway, I've been sampling a lot. So that's what I've been working on like yesterday and the day before. And I've been spinning. So that's all the knitting content for now. I didn't work on my my blanket, my crochet blanket. 2 weeks ago, I was obsessed with my crocheted blanket. That's all I wanted to do. And since I talked to you, I haven't touched it. Told you, I put it away for a while. I take it back. It's just a big, mood thing. And now I'm in the mood to spin. So I've been spinning and I'm very excited. I don't know that I showed you last time, so I'm going to show you, even though they are on the wheel at this point. These are 3 colors. I think I can bring them closer. Come on. I'm going to just Okay. These are 3 beautiful. 1, 2. Will I do it? I will. Oh, this one, you can't really see all the colors inside because it's at a very bland color right now. But I have 3 different colorways of Wool Fiend fiber. It was a merino, silk, and flax mix. And the 3 colorways were very, to me, appealing together. So this one's called Ballerina, and as you can tell, it's very pink, different shades of pink. I'll put them out of the way now. This is the second one I spun. This is the first one I spun. I don't remember what the colorway was called, but you can't really see. But inside, yeah. Anyway, you'll see when I show you the result. But like that has purple and like a orangey color. It has a beige and a pinky color. So all those fit really well together. And the last one is a much darker purple, and like this is green on the top. So like 4 is green, a purple, and somewhere in there there's also the same type of beige and some, does it have pink? I think it's mostly beige. Beige, purple, and green. So those 3 mixed together, I thought would make a gorgeous 3. Why do I say gorgeous t with an T at the end? I never say that in my life. I live with an American husband. I speak English all the time, every day. Yet, when I talk to you, I say the weirdest things. I don't know. Anyway, I finished spinning the 3rd braid recently, and I had to spin really thin because I wanted to make a fingering weight. And I wanted to make a 3-ply fingering weight. And I had 100 and some, it was closer to 115 grams of each color. It's a lot of very small wool to make. And so when I was finished, I was very excited to ply. I just wanted to ply and see what it was gonna look like. So I plied the first skein. I'm super happy with it. So this is the skein. There are parts that have a lot of pale. There are parts that have a lot more dark. It is mixed throughout. The pink, the pale pink gives it like this, continuous pink strand, whereas the other colors kind of vary. So I have no idea how big the sections are gonna be like until things mix, because sometimes one color changes, but not at the same time as the other. So I think it's gonna be quite blended, but I'll have to sample the knit samples to see how quickly it changes color. Because my goal with this is to make one sweater with all the yarn. I'll calculate. I don't know what my yardage or meterage is right now. I haven't calculated, but this is like 118 grams, I think, of wool, and I have to calculate the yardage to see. Well, I'm waiting. So I'm waiting to be done applying all of it before settling on a pattern, because, you know, I would love to use the most amount I can in one single pattern. So I'll choose depending. It's most likely going to be a very simple stockinette stitch sweater, just so I can showcase the yarn as much as possible. My question is more like, am I gonna wanna alternate the skeins, because are the sections gonna be too big, like, I have no idea. This is the second bobbin. It's quite full and all twisty, so I have to take off the yarn from my bobbin, let it soak, and then let it dry. This one is soaked and dry. It's completely finished, so I'm very excited to finish one. And this one is here, let's say, you know, a little bit more than 3/4 full, and I'm gonna have some left. So maybe once I make 3 skeins, because I might have way too much yardage to make like a decent sized sweater for me, meaning like, am I gonna knit like a boxy from Joji Locatelli and knit something really wide because I have that much yardage? Maybe. I love the boxy. It's a beautiful pattern. I'll have to think about it. Maybe I'll finish this bobbin. I'll soak, measure, see how much yardage I have, and if I'm satisfied with the yardage, maybe I'll chain ply the leftovers of the 3 to have small amounts of that color, so I can, I don't know, knit something else with it, because it's always fun to have little skeins of handspun, little amounts that I could use in color work, things like that. So this one was spun using a short backwards draw, which is kind of where I default when I do a short draw. So I hold and I pull back, I draft back, and then I bring my hand back, and then I bring everything to the bobbin, back, and then bring onto the bobbin. So that's my favorite way. It creates a less consistent yarn than to do short forward, which is bringing the wool forward like this, but I find it more fun, so that's what I do. The other wool that I'm going to show you that I've been spinning, I spun some small hanks on my spinning wheel. I'll show you right now the ones that are spun on my spinning wheel. So all of those have been spun on my wheel, but they have been spun a different way. So all of those are woolen yarns. So they're very airy and poofy. They have a lot of air in it. And the fiber was not in a braid. It was not all lined up. It was carded. And so I could do what's called a long draw, which is taking the fiber in my hand like this, anchoring or not at the front, depending on what I want to do, and then just pull and letting all the twist come into the fiber and then bringing it back. And then you just pull and you let the twist come into the fiber. It's really fun and fast to do. And those are the ones I created with that. So some of those, like I believe these 5 No, this is a with that, I think. These four were from dyer that no longer dyes in Quebec, but the wool is East Frisian, and you can get East Frisian here in Quebec quite easily, and it is a sheep that has a very high crimp, very like it's not the softest necessarily, but it's very woolly, and it's perfect to spin long draw like that. And what I was trying to do is emulate a 2-ply jumper weight like Jameson and Smith style wool. I know it is not Shetland. I'm not using Shetland, so it's not going to be a Shetland. But I wanted to create a yarn that was similar to a Shetland wool, so I can knit a Mary Wallen sweater. So if you don't know Mary Wallen, she has the most amazing Fair Isle sweaters, and there's a few that I love. My eyes was set on one that had like 14 colors. I cannot for the life of me remember the name of the pattern, so I can't tell you, but my mind might change because like I've been spinning those small amounts, 25 grams ish, maybe those are 50, no, of wool. These ones came from bats from Artifacts of Appreciation, so it has a lot of different yarns in it. And I've been spinning all these so that ultimately, eventually, I have enough colors to start swatching for a Mary Wallen project. And because I was doing long draw on my wheel with this, and then I started this project on my wheel, I kind of abandoned that project, but I felt like spinning more of those wools, so I started spinning it on a support spindle, because the support spindle has a long draw. So it creates a woolen yarn just like this. So I can try and create the same wool that's there, but with a spindle. So I use a little bowl between my lap to do some support spindling. And this is fiber from Urso Yarn Co. And it is Dorset wool. So very crimpy. This one is not even prepared. It's just dyed and sold, less expensive because she did not card it, but I spin it directly from that. It's really nice. And I have another color here that I'm gonna spin afterwards. So hopefully, I think maybe one of those is actually also from that collection. I don't remember. I'm gonna have to do major research if I want to be able to credit all the right people. But like I want to create like this. The orange is very funky with it. I don't care. I think it's gonna match well with this one when I do a section of orange, and I can do like a section of kind of greeny greens. And this is more like a purpley neutral. And then I don't know with what I will pair this, but I'm still on the lookout for yarns that will create this kind of woolen spun yarn. I'm on the lookout for fibers that are going to create this kind of woolen spun yarn, so I can build a stash of those colors and then mix and match them to create a Mary Wallen sweater. This is a very long-term project because even just knitting the sweater is going to be super long. So I'm not expecting to be done with this anytime soon, but I'm okay with it. Slow living, slow projects, and Mary Wallen sweaters will never be out of style. Never. That's what I love about some of those projects, like big cabley sweaters or all over Fair Isle, traditional Fair Isle sweaters. They will never run out of style. So even if you take forever to make them, it's not going to happen that in 2 years you're going to be like, oh, that style doesn't really appeal to me anymore, because they are timeless. Whereas I can absolutely see in my sweaters, all the trends that came and went over the years, where like my first sweaters were very had a lot of shaping, waist shaping, and were tighter, and then there's a bigger, and then longer sweaters now versus cropped sweaters versus no shaping. So all these things kind of come and go. And it doesn't mean that I would let go of a sweater because it doesn't fit the trend at this moment. I still have a lot of love for all my sweaters. Excuse me. But it means that the eye-catchy appeal of some patterns are not the same years later than they were when they initially launched. But like I said, those classic ones will always have the same appeal to me. I look at a Mary Wallen design and I cannot tell you whether it was released in 2023 or if it was released in 2010 or in 1995. It's all gorgeous. So yeah, that's where I wanted to go with that. So that's what I had to talk to you about. I hope this was interesting to you. I hope the spinning content is something that you like. If you do, please give me a comment and tell me if you like a little bit of, like, I went a little bit technical on some things, but some people like hearing how the yarn is made, and some people don't really care. So I'll probably always keep the spinning content in the second part of the podcast for the people that don't really care about it, which is 100% fine, and keep the knitting / crocheting content at the beginning. That is it for today, people. I will go back to sampling more because I'm not done sampling my unspun wool, and I will see you next week for that video, which is going to compare unspun wools, and I will see you in 10 weeks. What? I'll see you in 2 weeks for another podcast episode. Happy knitting. Bye.